Hi everyone, and welcome to this video on the lunar eclipse that happens on the 10th of January 2020, which is also my sister's birthday, so happy birthday Julia. It happens at 21 minutes past 7 in the evening, and that's based on UK time, so take the time difference into account if you're elsewhere. This is a full moon like any other, but it's interrupted via this eclipse. This is called an Appulse lunar eclipse, which is also known as a penumbral lunar eclipse. So the moon passes through the Earth's umbra and penumbra in a different way. If you want to look up the mechanics of it, penumbral lunar eclipse or Appulse lunar eclipse. In terms of the astrology, eclipses and the effects of eclipses last for 6 months due to this interruption in their natural process. So the sun at 20 degrees in Capricorn is all about working with other people. 1 and 2 is a relationship. Capricorn is about getting somewhere, setting a goal, working at it, working towards it, working hard, being stoic, being resilient, onwards and upwards, that kind of mentality. And that shines onto this beautiful full moon in Cancer. The moon rules Cancer. So it's happier in Cancer than it is in any of the other signs. The moon in Cancer is the mother. She's the moon goddess. She's the empress in the tarot. She's the high priestess in the tarot as well. She's someone who knows everything, who is aware of all, almost like a female goddess. That archetype of the eternally nurturing mother. It's at 20 degrees, which indicates relationships are really, really important. And when this full moon happens, we're all influenced by it. And it soothes us. So I would say on the 10th of January, but building up to it on the 9th, and also when the moon wanes off after the full moon on the 10th of January here, so the 11th, I really feel that you'll have a sense of compassion and ease with people who you would usually condemn and want nothing to do with. So a family member who's been in rehab 10 times and comes along and says, you know what, I know it's been 10 times, I really want to do it this time. And you've heard it all before, and this time you happen to believe him or her, and you do it another time. It may or may not work. So because the eclipse is interrupted, what lasts for 6 months, the North Node pulls in Cancer energy at 7 degrees. So when Cancer is at 7 degrees, it uses the mind, so emotions are analyzed by the mind. That's self-awareness. So for instance, I feel anxious when I film myself, for example, and by being aware of that, I can then connect with my higher power, with the higher realms, to look at that feeling and to deal with it. So it's self-awareness, mindfulness, being vigilant of yourself, and you get to take care of yourself first and foremost. Then you also are able to take your feelings and create them in a way that heals other people. Kenneth Williams said that every comedy is really just the channeling of a personal misery. So he made this joke. He was on television and he simply said, he had gone to a doctor, and the doctor said to him, Mr. Williams, you have a spastic colon. And then he said, I thought I'd come into money. And the whole audience laughed because he had this way of speaking and charm and this comedic nature to him that he could take this personal misery, which really is uncomfortable, and get people to laugh at it because it's just such a relatable situation and it's something so unpleasant that you laugh. Because it's funny when someone so blatantly says it. So 7 is about being creative. So either you become very free in your feelings and you demonstrate them through yourself. You become your artwork. Some people do that. They express themselves with dreadlocks, different colors. Andy Warhol wore that white wig on his head to identify. Grace Jones always had that very sleek, sharp haircuts too. People have identifying kind of qualities. Like Karl Lagerfeld, he had the white ponytail. Anna Wintour always has the sunglasses on. So that's a way of manifesting something that you feel about yourself and that other people can actually notice. Also, your weight, for instance, that's something that you manifest and that other people will notice and comment on. That actually brings me to an interesting thing. I was told by my friend Stephanie recently that I look terrible in my videos. I'm too thin, I look really awful, and I just want to clear that up because, first of all, it doesn't affect me. What other people think of me is none of my business, remember. But I do like people, I don't like a false narrative to be there. So, you know, I didn't lose weight because I'm ill or I'm relapsing or I'm sick or I'm whatever. I go with my gut, I go with my feeling. When I moved back, I wasn't as hungry. I've just eaten less. So I got thinner. It's not rocket science. And in the future, I might get a bigger appetite and get fatter again. I've always been up and down. So that kind of thing, for instance, is not going to happen to you during the 9th and 10th and 11th because people are nurturing and kind. And they will tell you the truth when you need to hear it, but they're not going to say things out of jealousy or whatever other nasty reasons there could be. If someone tells you a truth during this lunar eclipse, accept it as someone who really cares for you and who's telling you that something is off, that you need to change. So 6 months of good, loving, nurturing relationships with other people. So that bodes incredibly well for all of us in 2020, that people are going to be more considerate and more interested in having genuine, loving relationships. That's important. For instance, in the gay world, a lot of people are simply after the one thing. There's not even a consideration of a relationship. A relationship? Ludicrous. So people will start to think about that. It is interrupted and it pulls in more Cancer energy via the North Node. So it's us, the people, who are going to be affected by this. And a lot of us are going to be able to talk about our feelings when we haven't been able to before, to design ourselves the way we want to be. So look the way you want to look. If you want to wear pendants suddenly and show them, that is your choice. You can do that. Or if you want to dye your hair bleach blonde. I mean, these are all things that you explore about yourself. And even though the bleached hair usually doesn't look good, it's a process and it's a manifestation of someone finding themselves. So it's really good because you put yourself first for the next 6 months. You also take care of other people and you're able to manifest yourself the way you feel you ought to be, and you're able to create. So the creative ones among you, the writers, the artists, the sculptors, that is ruled by water. You're going to be really, really prolific in your work. And also psychics, intuitives, like me, intuitive astrologers, psychic mediums, tarot card readers. It's going to be much easier to connect to that higher power, that collective unconscious, where that's what Jung called it, the collective unconscious. The New Agers, like me, call it the Akashic Records. It's where all knowledge is kept, and we all have access to it at all times. With this eclipse, it allows all of us who try and use our kind of antennas to get messages it really allows us to get clearer, more nurturing messages which heal and help other people and give them a path. So whichever situation you're in, if you're in a relationship, or if you're not in a relationship, or if you work intuitively, or if you work creatively, or if you're retired and your main priority is you and how you live your year. You only live in the spring, so you're in Los Angeles from February to April, and then you're in Glastonbury from April to August, and then you're in South Africa from August to January. Who knows? You could take care of yourself if you have the means and the money, because you never want to be cold. And for you, that means following the spring. Now, the moon forms a lot of relationships. First of all, it sesqui squares, which means it's 135 degrees away from Mars at 4 degrees in Sagittarius. Mars is in a fire sign, Sagittarius, the centaur, which it really likes because Mars rules Aries, the ram. Let's move things forward. Think of Mars as the Roman god of war. At 4 degrees, it's counterproductive or counterintuitive for Mars to behave this way, because Sagittarius is all about run and discover and go ahead. 4 is about stay put and create stability. When you combine them, it's finding an answer or running after something to create stability within yourself. And Mars is going to feel uncomfortable during this full moon, and it's going to say, don't look within. If you're going to find fulfillment and care, you have to get it from other people, and that's a no-no. Mars is kind of making you feel uncomfortable, and if you go with that sense of being ill at ease and you force something that doesn't feel natural with another person, it's going to be awkward. It's really important that you don't try and force anything, or that you get something that you feel you deserve. Let relationships take their natural flow and their course. Don't expect anything from them. And the irony, like so many ironies we have on this planet, if you go with the flow and you don't care as much, and if you're just nice to other people and nice to yourself, it's very likely that Mars is going to then set up something that's going to be long-term and permanent. So a relationship that's at least 6 months long, or training as an artist, but not just 6 months. It can be something that's new and permanent in your life. So a lot of people can meet their soulmate here and their life purpose, the job that they were born to do, their vocation. If you have questions about that, what am I supposed to do? Why did the UFO drop me off here? What am I doing here? If you don't know what you're supposed to do for work or what your soul mission is, please get in touch with me for a personal reading. The chart I'm looking at now is for the lunar eclipse. When I have your place of birth, date of birth, and time of birth, I can also draw up your chart, and it tells me everything about you. So if you have any questions, just go to gregoryscott.com and order your reading there. Now, the moon also forms a trine, which is a harmonious relationship. It's 120 degrees away from Neptune at 16 degrees in Pisces. Neptune is the water planet of dreams and imagination and fog and the nebulous and the unclear and the mists of Avalon. And it's everything that's mysterious and magical. At 16 degrees, that's 7. Again, that's mind and creativity, the same way as the north node of the moon at 7 degrees in Cancer. And Neptune is in the sign that it rules, Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac, the sign that in the traditional chart rules the 12th house, spirituality and completion. And there's a very fine line between the imagination and the intuition. That's why a lot of people, when they get messages, they think, oh, I'm just making that up. And when you kind of train in that area, you know what is genuine guidance and what is just being made up. And that's something that you can really get a grip on and get a hold on here today and clear the mists, and you may be able to differentiate between what your ego guidance sounds and feels like and what your higher self guidance feels and sounds like in your own kind of mind's eye, or the way you hear things. So Neptune is on your side, revealing yourself and revealing what needs to be taken care of. When you do that first, then you're able to take care of other people. And we have so much energy sitting together as a stellium, S-T-E-L-L-I-U-M. That simply means 2 or 3 planets sitting together. 3 or more, I would say, that's a stellium. And they light up this moon. So next to the sun, which lights up the moon, it's like a torch. We have Jupiter, the lucky planet, sitting on top of it. Then we have the south node of the moon. Although technically Jupiter would not count because it's 12 degrees away from the sun, it's still in the area. Mercury, the communication planet, sits right on top of the sun, your identity, how you feel. Mercury is how you communicate and think. So your identity and your thinking are completely aligned, and it shines a light on the moon, which in this case are your feelings, your skeletons that you've hidden in the closet, and it illuminates them, and things that are in the dark and only exist in the dark can't live when light comes in. They just disappear into nothing. The shadows can't exist when it's pure light. Wow, so that's an amazing spotlight you have on yourself if you choose to use it. And some of us think that, okay, at this stage in my life, why should I go to therapy? I'm 40, really, my behaviors are somewhat ingrained by now. If I just keep working on myself, isn't it a little bit redundant at this point? No, it is not redundant, and people can change. People can change. I'm living proof of it. I had a completely different life up until the age of 29 than I do now, when I had a spiritual awakening. And not only does Mercury sit on the sun, your identity, but also Ceres, the planet of abundance and prosperity, Saturn, security and structure, and Pluto, transformation and change. And all of this is pushed onto the poor little moon, your feelings. So be kind to yourself when this spotlight hits. Use the opportunity to say, okay, I am vindictive, for example. I don't like that about me. Or I do have this green-eyed monster living in me. I don't want that anymore. But I'm not going to criticize myself. I'm going to embrace that part of me and say, I have a tendency to compare myself with others. And if they do better, then I feel bad and da-da-da. I embrace that. I'm not going to try and put it back in the corner. You don't put baby in the corner, okay? So don't put the parts of yourself that you don't like in the corner. You embrace all of yourself, and that just, it reintegrates you, and you're able to take a breath and say, oh, thank goodness, I am a whole person. I don't need to run around after other people to get them to like me. I like myself, finally. I have a chance to breathe. And personally, you're able to examine yourself and take care of yourself. And then if we look at the moon shining the light back onto the sun, let's just say it's a mirror, and it holds up a mirror to your identity, it means that when you take care of yourself, you activate the good luck of Jupiter. You work harder. You're crystal clear when it comes to the way you communicate and the way you think. When you communicate and express your views, opinions in your working life, in your professional life, that is when you start hearing ka-ching and coins starting to flow in. You're able to get new projects, to transform yourself, to transform your working life. It's never too late. If you have something that has kept you single for 60 years, or you're a virgin at 60 years old, and you think, it's done. I have created these neural pathways for myself, 60 years. I can't just change overnight. It's never going to happen. Think again, because even if you're 60 or 70, when you have something to look forward to and you feel young, in the sense that I am still alive today for a reason, and every day is a gift. If you think along those lines, then if you have the opportunity to change, why on earth would you be given that opportunity if you weren't supposed to do something with it? So if you are the 60-year-old virgin and you've never allowed yourself to be intimate with someone because it's a sin, it's a terrible sin, and you forgive yourself for that and you square it with God, your God of your understanding, and you realize that with sin, it's not meant like bad, you're going to be bad. And you realize that sin in that sense is meant as in you're hurting yourself. You're committing a sin. You're doing something that is against your own nature, which hurts yourself. And you realize that the pain you've caused yourself by being a virgin for 60 years is much worse than the sin itself, what that would have caused you. So when you have an awakening like that and you're like, okay, wow, so my behavior can really, really change completely now that I see things differently, then everything can change. And this is so wonderful for all of the people who feel damaged, who feel like no one loves them, who feel alone, who feel they struggle, who feel they don't deserve love, who feel they have never done anything to warrant love. All of those wonderful people are finally going to have this spotlight and see themselves for what they are and who they are and how powerful and valuable and lovable they are. And with that knowledge, that is priceless, that's invaluable. That's like saying, self-esteem sorted, ta-da! I mean, it takes a while, and this is a miraculous opportunity that, thank goodness, is an eclipse and is interrupted, which means that for the first 6 months of 2020, a lot of us are going to be extremely productive in a working sense, and extremely productive in seeing ourselves and working on ourselves and realizing that I am improving every day because I'm alive. And my reason for being here is I'm on a spiritual journey and I'm supposed to create the best version of myself that I possibly can be. There's nothing wrong with me as I am now, but all of us could be better. All of us could do more with our lives. All of us could be happier. And this full moon shows you that. Any other relationships? Let's see. So the trine and the sesqui square I've talked about. Obviously it opposes Saturn, Pluto, Ceres, Mercury and the Sun officially, not Jupiter in the South Node. So there's an opposition between work and the self. And I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry. But if you work in communication or construction or as a psychic or as someone who takes ideas and unmanifest things and you turn them into practical, tangible things, sorry, then you're going to get 2 thumbs up. Because what you're able to do is you're able to take care of yourself and then you can take care of others. So for instance, if you see someone who is really struggling and they hate themselves and you really pick up on it, and that person mentions something about being unhappy to you, and you realize how that person can get over the problem because you've been there yourself, you could communicate with that person and really work towards helping them, and really you have no idea how meaningful your words are to other people. There are things that I remember people saying that have completely changed my life and that those people would never ever remember. I was bullied as a child And I got in touch with that bully later on in life when I was an adult. And that episode, I felt, ended my childhood, and he didn't remember it, apparently. So you don't do other people's thinking for them, only do what you can. And this eclipse is going to ensure that you're going to say the right thing at the right time, because you don't want anything from anybody. And when you don't want anything from anybody, that's when people come to you. When you're desperate and grabbing and, you know, I need, that's when people kind of back off, and it's like, ooh, that's too intense. I don't want that. I don't want that much of a commitment. Like when you jump in a pool to save someone from drowning, they pull you down. It's human nature. So you can relax. You're not going to be pulled down because you are able to put yourself first. So anyone in Codependence Anonymous or in Al-Anon or in any 12-step programs, really, you're very, very lucky, because it's much easier to identify the things that are problematic in you and to resolve them. And to actually be willing to see that, because a lot of people say, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not crazy. I'm not nasty. I'm not rude. How dare you? So, you know, humbling yourself to even say there could possibly be something wrong with me, in the sense of I could be more polite. Some people wouldn't even go there. And I think that's also a very generational thing. Yeah, it's a very generational thing. I had someone ask a family member of mine recently, how many lovers have you had in your life? And it's like, that would have been completely inappropriate 20, 40 years ago to ask a question like that, whereas today it's just laughable in a way. So, yeah, you are able to take your own blinkers off, and the things that you thought were so serious and the things that you weren't able to do and that limited you, you're able to look at them today and you see them as laughable. That's priceless. Yeah, I used to think I had all of these. I got this line from Absolutely Fabulous, but I always thought I had these marvelous and very interesting hang-ups. They're not. They're bog standard, mundane little hang-ups. And I'm so glad that I understand my mundane, boring hang-ups, because once you understand them, you can do something about them. So I have addiction, so I need to have a spiritual practice, and I need to go to meetings, and I need to do service to stay well. If I don't know that, I can't keep myself well. So easy peasy. You get to see yourself for the first time as you really are, and not criticize yourself and say, God, how could you have said that? Because that will never affect real change. What you do is you look at yourself and you lovingly embrace those parts of you that you haven't been able to embrace, and you become the person that you're meant to be. That allows you to have much more freedom in your physical life, and to do much more, and to build better relationships. And it really enables you, it's important for the first 6 months of 2020 to square up with yourself before you go into business with other people. It's really important. So I'm being told that getting yourself in an emotional safe space is important, because when you're working with other people, there will be miscommunications. There will be people who disagree with you. You will be challenged, contradicted. Sometimes someone who's working with you will completely disagree and throw major curveballs your way. So this full moon eclipse is really preparing you emotionally to deal with all of those things of the real world, of the physical world, so that you can communicate. But when you communicate anything publicly, expect to get hate. As soon as you put yourself online, just for existing, someone's going to hate you. Someone is watching this, pressing the down button right now, because I have these chains out, or because I have a face, or these eyes, or the beard, or the lumps on my head. Someone is going to dislike something when you speak, and that's why a lot of sensitive people don't even bother. Because it's like, oh, I'm going to just get bombarded with hate. You know who's a good example of that? That wonderful Greta Thunberg girl. so young and to be maligned by all of these huge public figures. I know she has, I think she's on the Asperger spectrum, so she may have different coping strategies, but for most sensitive people, we hide, don't we? I certainly hid when I realized that there was something wrong with me at 12. I certainly hid that from everyone else because I was afraid that if I expose myself and make myself vulnerable, I will be ruined. And what this full moon does, it gives you the emotional peace and serenity and opportunity to look at yourself and to embrace yourself, so that you have an unshakable foundation which you can use to work and thrive and make money and change your daily routine and to improve your health, all in the first 6 months of this year, and work towards changing your romantic situation as well. If you're someone who's single and you want a relationship, it's your 6 months. If you're in a marriage that is no longer a romantic relationship, this is your time to take care of yourself and to say, I have to cut this cord. It's only fair to her, to the children, that this atmosphere stop and we don't have this pretend family. Or, I mean, and that's a big deal. That's life-changing. That is hard. And you say, I can't put myself through this charade anymore. I care about myself too much. And when you get out of that situation in your life, then you can address your personal desires and wants. You've got to clean house before you can clean other people's. Really? I'm asking myself if that makes sense. Yes, you do. You have to take inventory of yourself before you can go around criticizing others, right? So what I'm saying here with this eclipse is that it's a gift from the universe, as so many of these things are. We're able to hug ourselves, love ourselves, and that gives us this amazing platform and structure to achieve our soul mission in the next 6 months, to be someone who takes their thoughts and feelings and puts them in, or translates them as such, into something tangible, or something that you can listen to, or something that you can read, or something you can see or feel or hear or experience or touch. Whatever it is that you think is going to add value to yourself and to other people's lives, you will be able to express that in the first 6 months of 2020 easily and effortlessly. And it's going to be a very good time for relationships. Venus and the part of fortune are in Aquarius. So Venus, the planet of love and beauty, is about how can we love each other. It's like finally the dawning of this age of Aquarius that they were on about in that musical Hair, where it's all human love and understanding. There's certainly the potential for this. And we're living in interesting times. If you haven't watched the videos for your sign for 2020 yet, please do, because we've got the Great Conjunction happening on the 21st of December 2020, and that lasts into 2021, and it only happens every 20 years. So looking at where that Great Conjunction happens in your chart, what house, so if it's in the 5th house of romance, then your whole romantic life is likely to change. If it's in your 10th house of work, same thing will happen in your working life. So yeah, it's really a time where you can make the most of what you've been given and what you've got. And don't be naive or say, okay, this is now a time where I can trust everybody. No, of course not. But it's a time where you certainly don't have to put your guard up as much, and where you're much more able to express yourself, and where you're much clearer and less foggy and indecisive when it comes to making decisions that are going to benefit you in the long term. That's the gift, that you're able to put yourself first for once. And that is really the most loving and kind thing to do, because when you're happy, the people around you are happy. Going back to that marriage example, if you're sitting there in that loveless marriage, the children feel it, they're not happy, you're not happy, and it just makes everyone around you unhappy. Your energy, what you bring into any room or conversation, you don't understand how powerful you are, in the sense that you influence that whole environment simply through your presence. And this is your chance to find that loving person that you want to be and you want to exude and you want to show to the world. What's the other thing? I'm not a box. I don't have sides. When this guy says, I don't like this side of you. I'm not a box, I don't have sides. We all do have sides to ourselves. We have the personal side, we have the public persona, we have the family side of ourselves. We're very complicated beings. And all of that comes together and is really easy for you to understand during this eclipse, 9th, 10th and 11th. And it gives you an understanding, oh, now I know that I am this. I can be free to build in my life. I don't have to make myself small anymore, or hide, or put other people's desires before my own because I'm not good enough and I'm not entitled to my own opinion. All of that goes out the window. Let's have a round of applause for that. If you're overly confident, it's also not a problem, because you take care of yourself and you say, do you know what, this arrogance really puts people off. If you want to take care of yourself, turn it down a notch. So listen to your gut. It's going to be your best guide. I'm just looking at major aspect patterns in the chart to see if I see a T-square or a grand trine or anything like that. Nope. And it doesn't the moon doesn't form any other relationships other than that trine, the opposition, and the sesqui square. So that's it. So that's what I get for this amazing full moon in Cancer, which is also an eclipse on the North Node. If you have any questions for me, then please do get in touch via the website gregoryscott.com. I use astrology, tarot, and numerology in my readings, so I can answer any questions that you may have. Check out the videos for 2020 for your sign of the zodiac, and I'm sorry, I haven't made the signs for each sign of the zodiac for January yet. I've done the yearly ones, but I haven't done the January ones yet. I'm going to try and make those. The problem is that I get so few views on them. Mainly because I post them so late, I think. Because other people post them a month ahead. And I always tend to be really late with them. And they take such a long time. And because I get so few views, it's difficult to make them. But I am going to try and make the monthlies for January. So watch out, in the next couple of days they'll be up. But this is really important. So I wanted to talk to you guys about this, because it's not just for January. It's a amazing kind of experience. And if you want to know for your sun sign what place this eclipse takes place in your chart, then watch the videos for 2020, 2021. Because if you're a Cancer, I talk about this eclipse and I say it happens in your 8th house, for example. So watch those. That's as near as you're going to get to a personal reading. And if you do need personal questions answered urgently, or you want to have your chart analyzed, then please do get in touch with me via the website. Have a wonderful time during this eclipse. I look forward to speaking to you. If you like the video, then please hit the subscribe button and share it online. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I'll speak to you soon. Lots of kisses. Mwah.